Greetings, comrades. This is a video response to Maoist Rebel News 2, his video, British Riots, You Get What You Deserve, concerning, of course, the riots which have happened across England a couple of weeks ago. Firstly, yeah, I pretty much agree with most of the points you make. In many ways, but I'd like to give my perspective because I was actually in the area at the time and got a chance to sort of see a few things kind of firsthand. Firstly, you're completely correct in your analysis of the way the media has presented this whole thing. Basically, it's the attitude seems to be an attempt to treat the symptom but not to cure the disease, by which I mean public feeling seems to be in favour of an increase in police powers or a more draconian approach to prosecuting individuals involved in the riots, rather than actually trying to tackle why these people were rioting in the first place. Now, it seems logical to me that if you wanted to stop this form of public unrest from what is basically a section of the population that's being failed by the government, or at least failed by the system, if you will, it would be much easier to solve their problems than to deal with all the messiness which will, of course, be associated with increased police powers in a nominally democratic state. People I've talked to and the things I've read, basically, you know, the vibe is, oh, they should have shot some of the protesters, they should have broken out the tear gas and the rubber bullets and the water hoses and things like that. But if you actually take the time to go down to the places where these people live, like Tottenham, like Hackney, like Peckham, they aren't very nice places to live. Public services have been cut to shit in those areas, as I outlined in my previous video, which of course had a negative effect on the population. Democracy for these people is shrinking. Democracy for these people are failing. And you have to recognise that it takes a certain level of disconnection from society to feel that either A, you have to resort to rioting to get what you want, or B, in the case of others, where you feel that destroying the property of other working class people is an acceptable way to kind of elicit any form of change. Now, as I said in my previous video, I of course do not approve of in any way the destruction of property belonging to working class people, but this is an example of spontaneous class struggle, and class struggle can be conscious or it can be unconscious, but it will happen. It's a symptom of the disease, which is a capitalist, class-stratified society. It's always going to happen at some point. It might take the form of protests, or it might take the forms of disorganised and legalist rioting, or it could take the form of revolution. But it will happen at some point. And the only way to stop it properly is to resolve the contradictions existing within our society, and in this case it is to transition from capitalist stratified society to a classless socialist society. And yeah, I mean there is a class content to what's going on. Like I said, these people do not have, and most of them are young people, and they do not have the access to education required to gain any kind of knowledge of revolutionary theory or Marxism. I remember there was a protest which occurred. It was in the Tottenham / Kennington kind of area. It wasn't reported at all by the police, by the media, but there were anarchists there. There were members of the Socialist Workers' Party and the Communist Party of Great Britain, Marxist-Leninist, and various unions. And I remember also present were a group of kids who'd taken part in the riots and were looking for media attention. and I was wearing this hat at the time, which you can see there's a hammer and sickle and red star, and they're like, "Oh, what does that symbol mean?" And I tell them, "Oh, it's the symbol of communism and socialism," and they said, "What's that?" I said, "Well, it's kind of like the opposite of capitalism. What's that?" These people, these kids don't know what's going on in the world. They don't have the access to the information or to the education required to make a conscious choice in any kind of act of rebellion. So there you go. Without revolutionary leadership, the genuine anger felt by these people will, one, it just fizzles out and achieves nothing, but it also justifies the kind of new draconian police laws which they are inevitably going to bring in order to deal with these problems which they will surely face in the future. And I'm not just talking about increased ability of police to arrest and search people, also in the way they prosecute these individuals, including ejecting the entire family. If one family member, normally, for example, a teenage son, is found to have engaged in these rioting, which seems almost kind of Stalinist. I mean, it could even be like a first-time offence, and you just made your entire family homeless. That's why Marxists need to, be with the poor, with the impoverished masses, to bring them the information they need to act consciously to elicit a change that will actually benefit them. Whereas in this case, the only change that they've elicited will bring no benefit to them or the wider working class whatsoever. Another theory that I've heard, I guess it's kind of conspiracy theory, but it's plausible. As you know, I don't like to buy into conspiracy theories too much, but that, especially during the first few days of rioting, the police really let the damage kind of build up so as to stir up public outrage against these people in order to justify their new police laws, which I wouldn't put it past them. But yeah, so all kinds of negative effects are gonna come from this, including increased criticism of the welfare state. And the welfare state is one of the few really good things about Britain. That even it allows poor people living in a capitalist society to at least have some kind of mechanism to improve their lives when they really hit rock bottom. In this case, it's obviously failed in these areas where people really have no opportunities. There are areas of 50% youth unemployment. And what do you think they're going to do? Just sit at home, twiddle their thumbs all day? No, they're going to get into crime and all kinds of things like that, just to try and get by, to try and make their lives a little bit easier. When I first moved to England, I was unemployed for a while and on benefits, and it's fucking horrible. It drives you crazy, So, while I condemn the actions they choose to take, the actual rioting itself is completely justified. Now, I think the lesson we should draw from all these events is basically we need to give a voice to the voiceless. We need to open up more democratic routes, regardless of the state. We need to give up doing things through the bourgeois state, through the government, and do things for ourselves. I think that's one of the primary lessons that we have to learn in Marxism, is that it's about empowering the people to be able to do things themselves without the state, in order to build their own state and their own society and their own image. So while there is definitely a militant feeling amongst many sections of the poor, the ones who have been hardest hit by the recession and the failures of capitalism, without some kind of guidance, without some kind of theory behind what they're doing, nothing good will come from this. But hopefully this will be a catalyst and it will open up the eyes of some people. But basically, it's definitely a sign that class struggle in Britain is becoming much, much more acute. And we need to plan accordingly. So, yeah, thank you for listening.